I think there is and the Leveson report talked about the Mail particularly. There's some really interesting things about that. I mean, it was in the Daily Mail that the first sort of the Linda Lee Potter school, I think we can call it now, you know, she's often described as the great Linda Lee Potter, who made a name and a fortune writing scathing pieces, often about other women. I personally think when women write in a scathing tone about other women, everybody jumps on them and sees them as bitchy and horrible. Yeah. The reason women are seen is like Heather Mills wasn't that one piece by Yasmin, it's because every single, we live in an 80-20 society in journalism, and that goes across newspapers and broadcast. It took all 9 every day for a month, and of the top 10 pictures on the front pages, there were only 3 women. And I don't know if you've read the research or whether you can guess. And there's 7 men in the top 10. Jeremy Hunt, senior politician involved in a scandal, Nicolas Sarkozy, about to be elected, Simon Cowell, just written a biography, all there for very serious professional reasons, whether good or bad. And that was the most shocking part of the report for me, because to me the image, so my daughters, I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, they may not read any of these papers, you know, at the moment they only read The Guardian, obviously, but they look at those pictures and their role models are 2 women, well, one who married well, one who's related to well, that's a verb, and another one who's a victim of an absolutely hideous crime. And also that Murdoch tweeted that in response to a woman who'd signed that petition with something like, I can't remember now, I did write the thing, 23 followers living in Dorset. She emailed, as part of the campaign, she tweeted him saying, why do you still do this? And he tweeted back to that woman, just obviously didn't, you know, just sort of, it was one of those moments in a cab somewhere on his limousine. And he said, I don't know why, it's a bit dated, but he did use the word slightly scarily, that we might replace it with glamorous fashionistas instead. About 5 years ago, grew terribly depressed about the state of our industry, which is incredibly difficult to get into. The local newspapers, which fed both national titles and most broadcasts, organisations, are dying. And so your entry points, unless your mate happens to edit something, or your dad, are really, really hard. The editor of Newsnight, where he said, we didn't run the stories because it was just the women who said that Jimmy Savile had done these terrible things, and that would have opened the can of worms, that a sort of senior producer could say that just the women. I should also say Jude Kelly and the organisers of WOW, because this is the most amazing festival. The reason is that feminism has been portrayed in a way that makes young women not want to associate it with it. So when you ask women in surveys, young women say, oh, the F word, you know, they think it means you hate men, you don't believe in wearing makeup or heels. And actually, most of them, if you ask them if they believe in equality, they say yes. So to me, it's a misunderstanding of the word feminism, and that's come about because of the way it was used, particularly in the 1970s, when women were fighting amazing equal rights battles. Those women were portrayed in the media as a sum of body parts, which is very different to the way women are perceived in the media today. So I think it's a misunderstanding, but there is lots and lots of evidence that young women are actually campaigning on equality, feminist societies in universities, attracting both young men and young women. I think the F word actually is heading for a renaissance. So I think the way the media portray women, the sum of the body parts we've just talked about, focusing on what they look like, what they wear, is a big issue today. But many young women are seeing feminism actually as a way of making it better. Well, I think that's the responsibility of journalists, all of us as journalists. I mean, there was discussion today that journalism is an 80-20 society. 80% of those interviewed, quoted, mentioned 80% of the main articles written are by men. It's very male-dominated. I think there's a way, we discussed whether that's because there are fewer women at the top, or whether that's because even the women that are there don't write about women in a way that seems equal. I think it's lots of those things. I think, you know, we just need to think about it and work on changing the way our media portray women.